Live. It is 10:01 a.m. and this is the monthly Regional Advisory Council meeting. And Madam Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. So I will call the meeting to order. And what I will do is we'll go around and have the members of the RAC who are here introduce themselves. And then we'll also do those that are here online. And maybe we could start over here.
Sure. My name is Vincent Yannick, and I'm with the El Paso County Department of Human Services.
Laura Chronic, Town of Monument.
Thank you.
B. Babbitt, Northern El Paso County.
Thank you.
Melissa Martz with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging.
Jody Barker, Director of the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. Jared, would you call roll from those who are online?
I'll be happy to. So for members we have online, we have Penny from Park County.
Yes, Penny Everest, Executive Director for Park County Senior Coalition.
Thank you, Penny. And Rosemary.
Hi, Rosemary Hardamil with the Alzheimer's Association.
Madam Chair and Jody, those are the RAC members who are online.
Thank you. So if we could have a motion to accept the current agenda,
I so move.
and then do we have any concerns or any changes we need to make? Did you want to change some things on the current?
No. Excuse me. No, Madam Chair, we do have 2 public comments and we'll get to that shortly.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then can we get a second?
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye or raise hands.
Aye.
Great. So then under number 3 on our agenda is consent items. And I need a motion to approve the minutes from the previous RAC meeting. Any?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. Do we have any concerns or anything that needs to be corrected or changed? Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye or raise hands. Thank you. So now we're on number 4 here and we have public comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have 2 public comments, and while we go ahead through with these items, if anyone online has public comment, please use your raise hand feature so that you can be called on in turn. First of all, Madam Chair, I would like to introduce a new Area Agency on Aging staff member. Danica Hamilton is with us this morning. She is our new direct services supervisor. I think recently we had shared that our prior direct services supervisor had retired back in March. So we were very excited to have Danica join the team. Comes with a great deal of case management experience and working with community members. So we're very excited for her experience to be added to our team. So thank you and welcome, Danica. The second is we are approaching May is the annual Older Americans Month. And this year, the theme is Flip the Script on Aging. And so, Madam Chair, I would like to invite you to please read the proclamation that was recently enacted by the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board of Directors. And this will be my second public notice or public comment item.
Okay.
Thank you.
And our own Laura read that.
Yes, our very own Laura Chronic read that into the minutes at the recent Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board meeting. Thank you very much for doing that, Laura.
So I will read that. Whereas May is Older Americans Month, a time for us to recognize and honor the Pikes Peak region's older adults and their immense influence on every facet of American society. And whereas aging is about many things, but especially the accumulation of wisdom that allows older adults to challenge outdated stereotypes and live with vitality. And whereas the wisdom of the older Americans is a significant contribution to our country. And whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. And whereas the contributions include a lifetime of experiences benefiting business, organizations, families, and friends. And whereas older adults themselves have time to engage or re-engage in the arts, adventure, work, and more. And whereas we all watch the seed that has been planted as it grows around the world, from the 100-year-old who finished the Toronto Waterfront Marathon to the 100-year-olds contributing to the community in Colorado Springs, older adults say yes to life. And whereas the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments is an association of 3 counties and 13 municipalities representing the Pikes Peak region, and therefore it be resolved, the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board of Directors proclaim May 2025 as Older Americans Month. This year's theme, Flip the Script, emphasizes the profound impact of meaningful interactions and social connection on the well-being and health of older adults and the communities they live in. Therefore, be it further resolved, we call upon all residents to join us in recognizing the contributions of our older citizens and promoting programs and activities that foster connection, recognition, respect, and support in older adults. Resolved, approved, and adopted by the Board of Directors of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments on this 9th day of April 2025 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. Thank you. Jody, you had another public comment?
Just wanted to see if we had any other public comments. Jared, does anyone raise their hand?
So Jody, I don't see any hands raised online. I don't see anyone rushing the podium. We did not receive any advance requests for public comment. So I think we can move forward at your discretion.
Thank you, Jared. That'll close public comment, Madam Chair.
Right, and I think you may have noted in your packet that under action items, there was an at-large membership appointment made by the Pikes Peak Council of Governments regarding the RAC, and I don't think he's here today. Is he on? I don't think he's online either. Oh, okay. So we have now appointed Donald Kovaleski, and I think he's from the Falcon area, which is great because we really don't have anyone from that far east in the county. So I just want to say that we have to vote on him, I think, don't we? Okay. So all those in favor of adding Donald Kovaleski to the RAC, raise your hands or say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll go on to our information items and presentations. And so we have 3 separate presentations today, and they all fall under our behavioral services, and they're all sitting up here today since we have just a small group. And maybe we can start with the UCCS Aging Center. And I think, do we have 2 people here today? Oh, they are
We have
online.
2 people, but we're actually here online. I have a class that I teach shortly after, and so I wasn't able to make it in person today.
Are you Julie or Jennifer?
I am Julie.
Oh, great.
And
Go
I am
ahead.
Jennifer.
Super. And they are going to present on the UCCS Aging Center.
Great. Well, thank you for having us. Would it be helpful for me to, oh, it's already up there. Okay, perfect. So yeah, we'll be taking the next 20 minutes to talk a little bit about our services and about why our services are important. So we did open in 1999 to support UCCS Psychology Department's geropsychology program. Since that time, we have become a strong provider of mental health services to older adults in our community. We address the social challenges and mental health needs faced by individuals and their families in the second half of life. We are a nonprofit clinic, and we provide both individual and group psychotherapy, as well as assessment and consultation services. And I will go through and describe our programs in some more detail. We have a couple of options for pay for the folks we serve. We deliver our services on a sliding fee scale for folks that are seen by our graduate students. We also have licensed psychologists and neuropsychologists who provide services for Medicare reimbursement. So I don't know if it would be helpful for me to kind of let you know when to flip slides, but we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So just to talk a little bit briefly about the importance of what we do and the importance of providing mental health services to older adults. Older adults over age 65, especially those who are socially isolated, are at a higher risk of poor cognitive function, as well as a number of medical conditions such as heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, and weakened immune function. And I would note that a number of these medical conditions independently impact cognitive functioning as well. We can move to the next slide, please. So thinking about these needs in our community, in a 2022 survey, 39% of older adults in Colorado were dealing with the loss of a family member, 33% reported depression, 31% confusion or forgetfulness, and 22% cited mental health intervention as a needed service. That being the case, there are a number of reasons that folks and older adults in particular may not actually pursue those mental health needs or find mental health treatment. There's still, unfortunately, that stigma associated with seeking counseling or psychotherapy. There may be resource limitations, financial, transportation, et cetera. On top of that, many older adults do experience multiple mental health challenges simultaneously. About 40 to 70% of family caregivers experience depression, with both caregiving and depression independently associated with loneliness and isolation. We can move to the next slide, thank you. So the Aging Center plays a critical role in seeking to alleviate these concerns in the community. It's the only organization in the Pikes Peak region that offers mental health services, regardless of financial resources, and with a specialization in working with older adults. And again, we'll go through the host of programs and services that we offer. A large focus of the Aging Center is to provide our clients and including our caregivers with opportunity for increased connectedness and social activity. So moving to the next slide, we have caregiver groups which foster connections among caregivers and help participants recognize that they're not alone. So thinking about the caregiving situation, individuals may be, at home quite isolated, caregiving for a loved one without a lot of opportunity to connect with others in the community. And you can imagine, or maybe have even experienced, how isolating that can be, and some of the downstream mental health concerns that come as a result of that. In addition to sort of our dedicated mental health services, our individual and group psychotherapies, folks that come for our cognitive services are also often provided with resources to help in connecting with social and or support groups. So we really do have a holistic model where we are looking at the whole person and their family system as well. I mentioned earlier that the Aging Center was opened by the psychology department, and our strong affiliation with them does ensure that our services are high quality, that we're delivering empirically supported treatments, and as an added benefit, we are helping train the next generation of geropsychologists. So let's move on to talking a little bit about our programs. So I will go through each of these in a little bit more detail. We have our cognitive assessments, we have our cognitive care advocacy program, we have our skills groups, We offer individual psychotherapy, and we have our Aging Families and Caregiver program. So starting with our cognitive assessment services, we have a memory clinic, and this offers screenings for adults 55 and above. This is, more comprehensive than what you might get at your primary care provider appointment. That's typically, a 30-item, maybe 5 to 10 minute screen, but not as comprehensive as a full neuropsychological evaluation. So this is a really good opportunity to get a baseline or to do some little more extensive testing, again, than you can get at your primary care providers to determine if a full neuropsych eval is warranted. This is a really great model that we have here. Folks have 2-hour appointments. They come in, they get a 45 to 60-minute assessment by one of our graduate students, supervised by one of our clinical neuropsychologists. Following the assessment, the client goes back to our waiting area while the student scores up the assessment, consults with the supervisor, and then the client comes back within that same 2-hour appointment to get results and some recommendations as well. That can be, again, more easily tolerated than a full neuropsych eval, which a lot of folks can be hesitant to do. We like to think that that helps people feel a little bit more comfortable with the assessment process if they do then need to go on for a full neuropsych eval. And we do then offer our full neuropsychological evaluations. Again, we have sort of 2 different groups. We have our neuro team, which comprises some of our graduate students. Folks are able to get those assessments under our sliding fee scale. We also have a staff neuropsychologist who provides these evaluations for Medicare. And these, again, are more comprehensive evaluations that can actually assist in differential diagnosis. With, again, both of our memory clinic and our neuropsych evals, folks walk away with a host of recommendations potentially related to mental health needs, cognitive compensatory strategies, as well as lifestyle strategies to optimize cognitive functioning and slow the rate of any cognitive decline. And that leads us into our cognitive care advocacy program, which is PPACG funded. I get really excited when I talk about this program. I am a neuropsychologist by background, and so I'm accustomed to delivering these comprehensive neuropsych evals, meeting with patients and families and providing them a host of recommendations, which may be really good recommendations for them, but with the understanding that I'm providing these recommendations to oftentimes a cognitively impaired individual and caregivers who are already burdened and may already be struggling just to sort of meet the day-to-day caregiver needs. So what the cognitive care advocacy program does is, following a memory clinic screen or neuropsych eval, clients and caregivers are connected with our cognitive care advocate, who then provides one-to-one support in actually implementing those recommendations. That is often done over the phone. Folks sometimes do come in person as well. And again, we'll have multiple meetings in which the cognitive care advocate can really kind of look at those recommendations one by one and talk with the client and or caregiver about how they can actually implement those recommendations in their day-to-day life. To give a little bit of information about the impact, we have served 145 clients across 538 sessions just over this past year. Moving on to our skills groups, we have a cognitive skills training group, which is another group that I'm quite excited about. We actually are just wrapping up our pilot group next week. So this is our first group offered at the Aging Center. This is an 8-week skills group that teaches compensatory strategies and provides educational and lifestyle choices to help daily performance for individuals who've completed a cognitive assessment. The group that we're wrapping up is for individuals who have had an assessment with no associated cognitive diagnosis. So folks that may be concerned about their cognition, but have not been found on objective testing to actually have any cognitive impairment. Our next group that we'll be running in the summer will be for individuals with a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment, again, to help sort of teach them some compensatory strategies for their day-to-day life and provide education on lifestyle strategies that they can implement to slow the rate of decline. We also have a mindfulness skills group. This is another 8-week group which teaches techniques to help with stress management and relaxation and promote enhanced mental clarity. So all of our groups are facilitated by 2 to 3 graduate students under the supervision of a licensed psychologist. These groups, again, are very skills-based. They teach, tangible skills that folks can take home with them when the groups end. They also, as you would imagine, provide a really nice social opportunity. And we have found that friendships often start from these groups, and it's a great opportunity for social connection. Moving on to our individual psychotherapy. So sort of our standard treatment for folks 55 and above who may be experiencing depression, anxiety, difficulties adjusting to various aspects of aging, or a host of other mental health or psychosocial challenges. Again, this is Medicare covered for folks that want to see a licensed psychologist, and for folks that choose to work with one of our students, again, under supervision of a licensed psychologist, we operate under our low-cost sliding scale fee. And this takes us to our Aging Families and Caregiver Program, which is another PPACG funded program. We operate under a caregiver family therapy model, which was created and developed by Dr. Sarah Qualls, who was one of the founders of the Aging Center and a previous director of the Aging Center. This is a skills-based model of psychoeducation, therapy, and support to meet the psychosocial needs and improve the quality of life for older adults and caregivers. So again, folks who meet grant eligibility criteria are able to come in and get 8 sessions free of cost. We offer this in the context of a group. Folks always come in for an intake first, and for if any number of reasons they are not deemed an appropriate candidate for group, then we can offer this same therapy model in an individual format. And thinking about the impact of this, the Aging Center has served 42 clients across 251 sessions this year to date. And finally, for our Caregiver Public Information Program, which is also PPACG funded, our clinical staff and students provide presentations to various community organizations on topics related to aging and mental health. Some recent examples, we had some students present to a local church. This was a really interesting program. The church was offering a workshop trying to allow their parishioners who had a dementia diagnosis to still be able to connect with the church community and still be able to benefit from church services. And so this church was looking for ways that they could adapt their services and make some changes within the church community to really help these folks still be able to benefit. And so they invited us to come to sort of provide the first lecture in that workshop series, just to provide some education on dementia and cognitive impairment, talk about some of the caregiver concerns associated with that, and start talking to them about some recommendations for adjustments that they could make to, again, help these parishioners benefit prior to moving into the rest of their workshop. We also had a couple of students present at the recent Senior Life Expo, and we have 3 different community presentations scheduled at this time, and we are finding more and more invitations coming in as we sort of work towards reestablishing and creating more connections in the community. Our clinical staff also routinely serve as invited speakers to support the UCCS Gerontology Center's Professional Advancement Certificate and Gerontology Program. Year to date for the Caregiver Public Information Program, we've made 349 public information contacts. And that is an overview of our programs. And Jennifer and or I are happy to answer any questions that folks might have. And I had failed to mention, Julie, that you are the director of the program.
maybe we can see Jennifer on camera so we can all, if she's available to do that. Jennifer is the project director.
I can see you and hear you. I'm not sure if the same is true for you.
There you go. Yes, we
Okay.
can. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And if one of you could just tell me how many approximate staff, including students, do you have kind of like cycling through the center on an annual basis?
So we have 4 full-time and 1 part-time staff who are sort of permanently here. We also have typically 4 to 5 faculty supervisors who are affiliated with the Aging Center to help with provision of supervision. Our direct cohort, we typically have 4 to 5 students that are sort of immersed fully here at the Aging Center. But typically our more senior students that have come through here kind of stick around to help with some of our groups, to maybe help see some folks from our wait list. So that typically adds another 6 to 8 students.
That's great. Thank you for that information. Anybody else have any questions? What was that?
I do.
Oh, Sheila, you have a question?
Yeah. Do you have any outreach to the rural areas? We're in Park County. I realize that's a bit out of the metropolitan area, but we could certainly use some services out here.
So we do offer treatment over telehealth, and so that has opened up our ability to serve folks in rural areas. For our cognitive assessments, we do, typically need to see folks in the clinic, and we will see folks who come from a bit of a distance. But again, for psychotherapy, we are happy to work with people and see if we can accommodate telehealth.
How do you set that up?
Yeah, so you can reach our office, our front office at 719-255-8002.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Laura?
Yes, is the slide deck available for us to disseminate amongst our various areas?
So I believe Melissa has them. I would be very happy for those to be distributed.
Yes.
Yep, I do have them and I'm happy to forward them out to our RAC members and others. So thank you.
That would be great. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, the little face in silhouette. There you go.
Great. Again, I'm Susie Walton. I'm the Human Services Director in Park County. And we were really pleased to be able to work with Dr. Sherry Gibson, who I see is on your staff. She did come out and do an assessment of one of our adult protection clients and help us understand kind of the neurocognitive functioning of this individual to determine whether or not we would need, she might be at the place where she would be declared incompetent. I love that she traveled to the client. It made all the difference. She actually functioned and performed quite well on the, assessment. And I think in large part because she wasn't carted off to be in some doctor's office, it was just wonderful. So please pass that along to her if you would, Julie, and encourage others or students or whatever, because adult protection programs kind of all over rural Colorado really need this sort of assistance from time to time.
Great. Thank you for that input.
I will pass that along, and I will let you know also that one of our graduates from the UCCS Psychology Department who is here in the local community sort of specializes in those home-based assessments and capacity assessments in particular. So I think that message is being heard. And if you would like her contact information, you're welcome to email me and I'd be happy to pass that along to you.
Great. All right, I think we'll move on. The next person is Kathy Peter Schmidt.
Peter Schmidt.
Oh, Kelly, I have Kathy here, Kelly. Okay, and you are the executive director and now new owner of Pearls, right? Thank you.
So Kelly, on your system, there's just a single button.
All right, can you hear me okay? I hear it. All right, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, I just wanted to introduce myself, Kelly Peterschmidt. A lot of you know me as the director of Porchlight Friends, a nonprofit doing companionship visits with older adults in El Paso County. And Cynthia Margiotta, who was the one that started the Pearls program here in Colorado Springs about 5 or 6 years ago, approached me about wanting to step aside, kind of semi-retire, and wanted to turn over the operation of the Pearls program to me. She asked if I would do that because there's some nice synergy between the Pearls program and Porchlight Friends serving older adults. So the Pearls program is a program to encourage active, rewarding lives for seniors. So that just happened on April 1st. So I'm still kind of in the drinking through the fire hose stage. So bear with me as this is my first presentation as Director of Pearls. So we'll walk through these slides and let me know what questions you have.
And Kelly, if you can first just click in there.
Do what?
Click, use the mouse to start with.
Okay.
Go again.
There we go. And are we able to play this video?
We're gonna find out.
Okay. And if it's not going to work, the sound, that's okay. We can just skip it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's just skip that. And then are you all seeing the stop sharing? Oh, there we go. Okay. So kind of speaking to the choir here, but depression affects nearly 20% of Americans age 65 and older. So yeah, this isn't advancing. There we go. What is the Pearls program? Pearls program is of Colorado is an evidence-based initiative developed by the University of Washington. It offers a practical, hands-on approach to addressing challenges commonly faced by adults aged 60 and older. And the University of Washington, they started this program back in the 1990s. It's been around for a lot of years, and really just trying to do a grassroots approach to kind of, in addition to what we were just shown through UCCS, kind of the clinical approach to addressing some of these mental health issues. And we have trained coaches that go into the clients' homes to really help them in their safe environments there. So we use a three-legged approach to increase socialization, and that's kind of where we're partnering with Porchlight Friends as well, as just really trying to, there's a lot of loneliness and isolation with older adults. I think we all know that. So as part of our approach to helping older adults, it's increasing that socialization, encouraging physical activity, getting people up off the couch, getting them outside, getting some sun on their face, and coming up with ways to do that to increase that physical activity. And then inspire people to engage in pleasant activities. Our coaches want to meet with the clients, with our participants, and really find out what makes them happy. What are some things that makes them happy, and go from there. Have that be the starting point, and then come up with some steps to work in that direction to engage in those activities that make them happy. When these elements are combined with a coach who provides in-home visits, they can restore a sense of hope and vitality to individuals who may have felt like giving up. So the core of what we do is to help people find solutions to some of their problems. We offer help to those who are self-isolating before depression gets to the crisis stage, which is, might move on to the UCCS services after that. So the opportunity to express emotion, we provide an honest and non-threatening approach. We introduce tools participants can use long after working with their Pearls coach. So our sessions, it's like 6 to 8 sessions over a 6-month period that we go in and help them, but we're providing them with those tools that they can refer back after we're done and really try to work forward on their own. And then we focus on improvement of depressive behaviors and teaching each participant the skills necessary to move to action, making lasting life changes. And then Pearls is delivered in the client's home or other community settings. We really try to find them and reach them and serve them where they are, whether that's in their home or if they're in one of the senior communities. And we serve El Paso County, Teller County, and South Park County. And then we take a team-based approach involving the Pearls coach and a clinical supervisor. So the way that the University of Washington set up this program, it's very important that we have supervisory sessions for these trained coaches. There's a training session that these coaches go through, but they're overseen by one of two ways, having a psychologist and a nurse practitioner or a psychiatrist. And the reason they have that is so that the clinical people, the nurse practitioner or the psychiatrist, can really take a look at the medications that clients are on. They're not going to prescribe, but they're going to maybe take a look at, we all know that you go into these older adults' homes and you see this collection of medications that they've gotten over the years, and they can kind of take a look at those medications and say, well, maybe you need to go talk to your doctor about these two medications are overlapping. Maybe you don't need this one. So we're not going to prescribe medications, but we're going to help them look at that and maybe guide them to their doctor to maybe discuss those medications with them. And that's one of the main roles of the psychiatrist or the psychologist and the nurse practitioner. Pearls is well suited for caregivers and individuals with chronic illness, including dementia, epilepsy, or MS, to name a few. So we can really go in and we can help the caregivers as well and come up with a plan for them, those that are caring for an older adult, and give them steps and a role that they can play too in helping their loved one kind of come over this loneliness, anxiety, and minor depression. And then thanks to the PPACG grant, these services are offered to older adults at no cost. So we serve, through this grant process, we serve up to 65 adults per year, typically serving 25 to 28 per month, just depending on where they are in the program. And all of that service is no cost thanks to the grant that we get through AAA. So Pearls aims to improve the quality of life as well as reduce depressive symptoms. And then how does this work? So during the 8 in-home visits over 6 months, the coach helps participants develop a plan to make positive changes, such as help with caregiving duties, helping with those caregivers, working through that, getting out more. Like I said, just getting up, getting out. We all know that we see the studies about your feet in the grass and the sunshine on your face. It really does make a difference. So really trying to get our clients up and get out in nature. New ways to get their needs met, getting to doctor's appointments. That's kind of a way that Porchlight Friends and Pearls can work together. Porchlight Friends can provide transportation to doctor's appointments and that sort of thing. So if a Pearls coach is working with a client that maybe needs that companionship and transportation, we can step in with that, or introduce them to other transportation services, such as Silver Key, and meeting up with loved ones, just really trying to bring those families together and support them to support each other. All right, so how does this work? Pearls coaches encourage pleasant activities, social interaction, and exercise. Coaches focus on the actions and wishes of each older participant. So we don't go in with our own agenda. We go in, the first step that we do is just to meet with the older adult and find out what that means to them, because everybody is different. Every thing that brings them joy is different. So we really want to go in then and listen to them and find out, what brings them joy and make a list for there and work from there. So we have the 3 major components: working with someone that is experiencing depression, working with families of someone with dementia, and then a post-Pearls care program. So working with someone that has experienced depression, sessions are initially held weekly. We really want to get in there and work with them on a weekly basis for those first couple of weeks. And then we really want to turn this program over to them. We ask our participants to take the initiative to follow the plan that their coaches come up with. We're not going to hold them by the hand and drag them through this program. It's something that they need to do on their own. So once we get in there over the first couple of weeks, we're going to move that to a bi-weekly, and then we're going to have tri-weekly, and finally we'll meet with them on a monthly basis to see, just kind of check in with them to see how they're doing with the plan that we've set up with them. And then initial sessions include, as I mentioned, the data gathering, listening, learning from the participant, compiling a problem list, developing a problem-solving treatment, that PST, and then we complete a patient health questionnaire just to kind of see how they're feeling about themselves emotionally, physically. And then subsequent sessions, continuation of the participant with the coach, interactions, like I said, guiding them through, just trying to encourage them through the program. monitoring that list. Here's that PST that we came up with you. How are you doing? There's actually boxes that we can check off because it feels good to check a box off. So we've got that list for them. We're going to check some boxes off and really guide them through that treatment, completing another PHQ-9, and then just tracking the progress and how they're feeling with that. And then the problem-solving treatment, that PST, the Pearls program operates on the premise that depression is often caused by unsolved problems. So even sometimes voicing those problems, maybe that's something that's been running around in their head for a while, and really just getting it out and getting it on a piece of paper, a lot of times feels better. So just talking about that. And then through the PST, the coach and the participant work together to make those changes. And then supporting family members with dementia. We know how tough that is. You know, I always say, even with the work that we do with Porchlight Friends, that caregiving is a labor of love, but it's labor. It's tough. There's a lot of dimensions to it, and it can, in and of itself, can bring depressive symptoms, maybe to the caregivers. So we bring education to them. People with dementia need care in a very different way with many other illnesses. And so really just trying to make sure that they're connected to all the resources. I feel like El Paso County has a lot of really great resources that we can provide to our older adults and their caregivers. So we just always want to make sure that they know about the services that we have in the community and bring those services to them. And then family self-care, we guide them toward ways to care for themselves so they're better able to care for their loved ones. I always love the analogy of the heart and the human body. You know, the heart takes the oxygen from the blood before it pumps it to the rest of the body, because it really knows that it needs that to work for the rest of the body. So I feel like the caregivers are just the same way. They really need to find a way to take care of themselves so that they can be the best caregiver that they can be. So we empower individuals to take action to make lasting changes so they can lead more active and rewarding lives. So Pearls is not a substitute for therapy or case management, as we learned like in the last presentation with UCCS. We are not that. We are not the clinical therapy that Diane talked about. Instead, we empower caregivers with practical tools and skills to support their loved ones while also prioritizing their own well-being. And then the post-Pearls program. A program is created for individuals who have completed Pearls but continue to feel lonely or seeking new friendships and ongoing connection. We know that maybe 6 to 8 sessions is not going to solve all their problems. So we do offer group sessions, or just we can do follow-up sessions with the Pearls coaches to just kind of help guide them along as we go. And this ongoing support is available for anyone who wishes to continue working through Pearls. We have group discussions. We have volunteers that help with some of those group discussions along with the coaches so that we can maybe get together, you know, and maybe that's part of the socialization, is getting together as a group and really talking about how you're doing, what do you need help with? Is anybody in the group able to help you? And then the trained volunteer and a Pearls coach meet monthly with participants to guide them through those discussions. And then for this grant period, these are where our referrals have come from, you know, friends and family, AAA, legal guardians, fire department, faith communities, and self-referrals. And then thanks to this grant, the Pearls program is, like I said, we serve all of El Paso County, Teller County, and South Park County. So if you know anybody that's in those areas that might want to meet with one of our coaches. And then here's our team. I'm the new director. We've got Dave Margiotta, who's the psychologist, and then Molly Kluwer, who's a nurse practitioner. And then we've got Victoria and Cynthia, our coaches. Victoria is the one that's in Teller County and South Park County. And then we've got Vinny, who does the compliance and the bookkeeping for us. And right now, so Dr. Margiotta, the psychologist, and Molly, they're looking to retire. So we're kind of in a transition with that as well. So we're in communication with the local psychiatrist who it looks like will be able to take over for them and provide that supervision and oversight for the Pearls program going forward. And then, yeah, do you know anybody that might be experiencing minor depression, anxiety, dementia, loneliness? Here's my contact information. We're still in the process of setting up that Pearls contact email for me. So here's the Porchlight Friends that you can reach me, and that's a general phone number that you can reach out and let us know. Kind of that first step is just to call me, and then I decide where and which coach is going to take on that client, and then we send that referral along to the coach. So yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, a couple things that I would like to share. The Pearls program is part of the evidence-based programming, like Kelly mentioned, came out of University of Washington, and so this Pearls program is actually the first in Colorado. And so I believe there's been training with some other regions to to hopefully pass along and start Pearls programs there. So this is also something that is very well recognized by our State Union on Aging administrators, and really they were really excited that we were able to bring this into our region. So thank you for that presentation. But I know most of you weren't on the decision making 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, when Pearls was able to be brought into the funding of the program. So thank you very much for presenting today.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Kelly, and we will move on. And last but not least, we have Jason DeBueno, Executive Director of Silver Key.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the RAC, for the opportunity to present a little bit about Silver Key. I want to share with you first that one of the things that we have invested heavily in is to be able to make sure that our website and the virtual experience for our membership is going to be easy to use. Right now, with the diversity of services and the types of services that we offer, it can be a little bit complex to be able to navigate internally within Silver Key's system. So through that, by the time that we get to the next RAC presentation, I will have a chance to present that. But before then, if you find time sometime in June to go to our website, what you're going to experience is a whole different way for us to be able to educate community about what we have available and also what's available to the larger community. We want to make sure that we aligned very much to the Colorado's intent about accessibility for virtual experience. And so we're excited about that, and that we don't have a launch today, but we've got it in a demo, and it'll be happening very soon here. Along that path, one of the things that I want to share with you is that Silver Key is very much experienced, as we all have as providers, some of the impacts related to the financial challenges that we have in being both a provider for the AAA as well as a contractor with many different grants in the community. And so with that, this is a little bit different of a presentation in that we certainly will get to what Melissa wanted us to bring forward, the behavioral health link, and certainly that's an important piece. But I think it's also important with the RAC membership to be able to understand where some of the challenges are for an organization and the organizations. I certainly am not the spokesperson for all the providers, but I will share with you that I think, as we've heard, many of them are going to be struggling over the course of the next year, depending on what happens federally and stateside. So I hope to do some justice, at least in representing our experience and what that looks like going forward. Jared, if you'd go to the next slide. Oh, that's not Jared. He did a switcheroo on me.
Had a staff
Thank you.
So Cheryl's up there now. Yeah.
So one of the things I want to share with you is that we have learned over the course of our experience that with all the different types of services that Silver Key has available, everything from transportation, resource navigation, educational service, socialization, nutrition, health and wellness, there's a whole range that we lovingly call the wraparound will, in that we've got this will of hope that we are able to bring together. But one of the things we've also realized is that the uniqueness of Silver Key really is rooted from the relationships we build. And each one part of our organization is equally important to the others, and they all link together, sometimes intuitively, sometimes not intuitively, like our thrift store. It may not be that very clear how our thrift store links into this wellness wheel, but one of the ways that we do so is through our durable medical equipment access. And so we have, as an example, having that level of support to be able to make sure that people have the ability to stay healthy and well in their own home sometimes means they have the accessible equipment to do so, which thus reduces anxieties, which increases independence, and then being able to have transportation services that's able to engage wheelchairs and walkers, et cetera, that otherwise would have limitations through the traditional transportation program out there. But one of the other things that's happened is that with its 55 years of history in the community, many people sometimes don't know about what Silver Key is, or if they do know about Silver Key, it's because they participated in one part of. And so we have took a very intentional step over the last couple of years to be able to demonstrate impact. As some of the other presenters were sharing, there are important pieces to highlight in impact, but what we wanted to do was look at this a little bit differently. We wanted to find a different way to be able to effectively tell the story that really aligns to the relationship building that we do as a provider into the community we care about. And in doing so, what we identified is through the what's called the Colorado Client Assessment Record. Susie and I probably are very, probably amongst everybody, very, very aware of what that particular document it is. And what it is, it roots out of the behavioral health system, where in Medicaid, what happens is the client record has an element of review called hope. And so one of the things in Medicaid is that you complete this clinical client assessment record. The element that's gauged is hope. And when I've asked for many, many years, for over 16 years, I was at the Mental Health Center before Silver Key, I would ask, what happens to that data? Nobody really knew. It doesn't exist anywhere. It just gets collected for whatever reasons. And so what happened is we took the hope scale out of that element and we put that into our system, wondering if we can gauge the level of hope that we bring and foster with the membership that we have. Can we empirically, with a reliable, statistically valid instrument, actually demonstrate impact? I see that Steve Johnson's on the line, and another partner that we have is NAMI Colorado Springs, and also Innovations in Aging was part of this effort. So what we did is we pulled all of these different agencies together, and we started to understand if we can increase the hope of individuals through a wraparound approach, can we demonstrate some sort of cost savings to the community? And in fact, what happened in using that scale, we gauged the level of hope of seniors. And if it's improving, there's actually a demonstrative decrease in 911 emergency room utilization, and ideally, we're even reducing the level of skilled nursing care. So what happens, the inverse in the data is true. And I'm not talking about our data, I'm talking about internationally. This data demonstrates that if you have lower hope, you have higher utilization of those systems. And so it's very costly to the organization and to the community. And quite frankly, to this community, if we had any gap in services amongst the providers that we're presenting today, or any of the providers that we have in our partnership with the AAA, what we do is we reduce hope and we increase the burden to Medicaid and to Medicare. And so what that means is taxpayers pay 5 times the amount of money through taxes to care for somebody if we stepped back and did some intervention proactively and preventatively. Now, I can say all that hope is important and that sounds all, but this is what's really exciting. Dartmouth College has received a copy of our report that was generated. It's a very comprehensive, independent reviewed report, and they have taken that forward, and their students are evaluating whether it'll be able to be identified as a peer-reviewed journal entry. And if it does, which we think it's going to be based on the fact that they've adopted us for some other initiatives, from that, what we're doing is we're moving forward through Dartmouth College to designate Silver Key as an evidence-based program in its entirety, because each part of it and piece of it is different than just in isolation alone. And so by that designation, where we have an evidence-based designation as an entire organization, what that does is it starts to be able to present opportunity in the more formal systems of Medicaid and Medicare, meaning that if we can say we are an evidence-based practice in its entirety, similar to PEARLS, what we will be able to do is open up conversations with Medicaid and Medicare and say the reason why we're an evidence-based practice is because of the great strength and the services we provide. The outcomes are why insurances should listen. Because if we can save an insurance $5 for every dollar they spend, I'll tell you, insurance like money, and they will listen. And so with that, I want to share with you that part of our mission is to include stakeholders. This has never been just about Silver Key, although Silver Key, through its history, has been relationship building. Over the course of many, many years, we have demonstrated, I think, over and over again, that our intent is to be able to bridge through community. And the way we want to do that, and I learned that a QR means a quick response. So for those who are watching this, your quick response is the QR code there. So if you are interested, you can learn a little bit about this summit and what we have right now is, I think, just shy of 70 different presenters from all the different parts that are AAA providers, people that are not a part of the AAA, and community members that are interested in supporting caregivers and individuals. In the last 2 years, we've had over 1,200 people at each one of our events. We anticipate we'll be at that same level plus at the Great Wolf Lodge. Free food, free parking, free. Nothing's free in this world. What it is that we've got some sponsors that have been able to bring forward resource to allow for us to offset that cost, because they are invested very much. They're not even presenting there. They're investing in, we want to make sure that our community of older adults have the information they need to be able to be in that long-term health and wellness. I'm excited about our partnership with Dartmouth College. I'm excited about the prospect of being an evidence-based practice, and the fact that we will hopefully be able to bring additional dollars to this community through a different avenue than our traditional contracts. Next slide, please. I would be remiss in my role if I didn't share with you that we've got an important event coming up. It's our fundraising event in June. And the reason I probably would, I'm going to say I normally wouldn't bring this forward here, but that's a lie. I'm going to say it's different this time. The reason I'm bringing it forward this time is because one of the things that we've experienced over the years is that we continue to have the same conversation with the people who are the known choir to us. We tell about the importance of the plight of the older adult. We tell about the importance of what it means to invest in our community. We tell about the needs and our solutions, that type of thing. But the problem is 770,000 people just in El Paso County, not even including Teller and Park. When we include those numbers, how many of those people do not know about the impact of older adults when they don't have access to the services that they need? So this fundraising event is actually a little bit different. We're going to bless and release those that don't care, because sometimes people become caring when it affects them directly. So maybe our tagline is aging is all of us. So maybe down the line they'll care if they don't care today. But what this intent is to really bring forward to a new group of people that may not understand about what Silver Key is or what the plight of the older adult is. And we want to educate, so we grow that advocacy. As Melissa and I have communicated in the past together, that there's so much voice needed in some of the changes that need to happen. And it's not always going to come from the people we serve or the people we know. It's going to be for those who don't know. And so it's important to educate. So I would invite you and others to be able to attend this event. Next slide, please. I hope you got your QR done fast enough. All right, so the mission, values, vision. I will just share with you and highlight within this. I'm not going to read this all to you, but I want to share with you a few things. One is that engaging stakeholders is very much part of our mission to ensure quality of life for individuals. And the vision, the value, worth, needs of all seniors are identified and honored. One of the things that I struggle with is that sometimes, and I love Susie being here and her connection with Dr. Gibson. Dr. Gibson frequently talks about the idea of self-determination and also independence in decision making. And there is a gap sometimes between when somebody has a cognitive decline or a level of illness or a level of challenge in getting the supports that they need, and all of a sudden we say, well, they're not able to make their own decisions. And yet we haven't gone through like UCCS's aging program to be able to do that full evaluation. Do they truly have the capacity, and yet the system isn't functioning well for them to make decisions well? So one of the things that I think we need to be aware of is that it is important to step back and understand where people are at. People don't live to be 70, 80, 90, 100 years old without having some internal ability to adapt, to be wise, and to make decisions. So it's almost inappropriate for us to step in and say, let's step in and say, we're going to care about you, but we're going to somehow take away your decision rights in that process. That is why our vision is really about listening first, valuing next, and identifying what we can do to meet that need that they value, not what we value. And that is a little bit of a flip of a script, because in some cases, what happens is that we move forward and say, this is what you need to get, and we're trying always to understand we've got to step back, because not everybody needs everything that we have available. In fact, in many cases, many people don't want everything that we have available. And yet we think we're better than sliced bread when we're the ones telling about it. So it really is a humbling way to be able to move forward to the care that we deliver. And those values, we want to value the quality of life. We want to value respect, and that we've got that commitment to our membership driving what they want, not the other way around. And that's a tough place, because in our organization, we We are rooted over all these years around relationships, as I talked about. We have between 300 and 500 volunteers, depending on the season, for all that we do in our organization. When you think about that level of impact, and I know all the RAC members are volunteers, so please don't hear this as a criticism, by the way. It is Volunteer Awareness and Recognition Week, so thank you for all that you do. I will let you know, when you have that amount of volunteers in an organization, not only in a wonderful way does it really evolve an organization to be present and available to be able to meet the needs of the volunteers, it also makes it difficult for organizations to innovate from that, because we bring people in for a very short period of time to be able to do some meaningful support, and it is. And the thing is to be able to take all those meaningful points to be able to drive to that next change, it can be a real challenge. So what we have really done, and I think we've done very well, is we've really learned how do we engage our volunteers to be able to make sure we're listening first to the people we serve, and recognize still that the volunteers are bringing a level of impact and impassioned care without feeling like they have to do it because of their need, but really because of the individual. But I will tell you that our volunteers that are part of, they gain a lot in purpose. That is why the majority of our volunteers are over the age of 60, because there's a lot of purpose in that. If we go to the next slide, please. So the services that I described, we have our connection cafes. One of the things about the connection cafe and our nutrition is that social connection. Again, when we think about systems, any kind of connection is an important connection, whether it's pearls, whether it's the different partners that we have that actually go out and go to the community. But one of the things about the Connection Cafe is sometimes we don't really fully value that the people that are in service can be the solution for the need to address isolation and loneliness. So the Connection Cafes are actually facilitated many times by volunteers, but they're fostering that opportunity through food access for people to connect, to be able to address isolation and loneliness. Meals on Wheels, that's another example where we have individuals that for whatever reason are limited in their ambulation or the connection and the home delivered meals. So what happens with that frequently is some of the first points and main points of connection that they have is their Meals on Wheels volunteer driver. About, I would say 3 times a month, maybe sometimes more, sometimes less, I receive letters from family members thanking that individual when somebody has passed away, saying, this person's in the eulogy. This person, I wanted you to know how much this person meant to my mom or my dad. This is what this person means to me today. It cannot be overstated the impact of those individual connections, because it may be the only connection that an individual has. Health and wellness. The other piece that I want to share with you that we have done, because I know the question is going to come forward from Park County. What about Park County in this? So I'm going to try and be ahead of it this time, sir. What I'm going to share with you is this. While we don't have a lot of our services going west of Teller, we do have a small Connection Cafe support there. One of the things that has happened is the calls of reassurance. We do have people that we support in our calls of reassurance program so that we can outreach where volunteers calling the home to be able to make sure that we're connecting. And that is available across the community. In fact, one of the first connections that I had with thinking we could do this outside of is Jody and I had an individual out of Denver, and he talked and I talked, and we said, okay. So we ended up providing support to Denver for the calls of reassurance, because that's what the thing is that while we may not be able to bring the food out there, when we may not be able to bring transportation, we are only a phone call away. And so we would invite Park and Teller to be able to embrace this if that makes sense for your individuals. Affordable housing, I believe, is not at this point a right of individuals, but I think that there's a moral imperative that we have that available to seniors, because when we think about Maslow's hierarchy of need, safety and security at that same level, at that first level, almost throw everything else that we want to do out the window. And B, I so appreciate your support of where we were at with our housing project. We now have 2 housing projects, 88 units of affordable housing for individuals. Is it solving the need in the community? The answer is absolutely not, because now that we're 50 units into this, we have 450 people on our wait list. Day one. That's why housing is one of the priorities that Melissa is moving forward with. So that's an important piece to be aware of, that through the housing piece is where we can start to build that connection, address the mental health needs and behavioral health needs of individuals. In social, I've talked about the Connection Cafe, the volunteer opportunities, but I want to highlight the activity centers. Over the course of the last 2 years, we had adopted and embraced 2 different activity centers. One up north when we acquired Tri-Lake Silver Lion science. And Laura, I'm so glad that you serve on the RAC and also on our board. Laura is one of the people from Tri-Lakes. And through that activity center, we're demonstrating that it doesn't matter if people are sitting on 3 acres of land and they have a house there. They may be land rich, but cash poor, and then they feel like I can't access anything. So some of the individuals that you otherwise would think won't be connected to an activity center or senior center, they are accessing because that socialization is critical. From that model, when the senior center here in Colorado Springs was shut down to be able to renovate it, which we're so excited about that eventual piece, for it to be activated and starting again, we were asked by the city, would we start an activity center south? So we started, and I asked, is there money for it? The answer was no. And I'm like, okay. So we did what we could, and right now we have started to find a rhythm. So we're starting to really bring forward support, both south and north, for these areas. Is it going to replace what the senior center does? No, I want to emphasize that. What it does is it brings access. 4 miles may not seem like much. We're 4 miles away from the YMCA's senior center at North Hancock. But for some, it might as well be 1,000,000 miles. And particularly because of the challenges that we have with transportation, we have to be able to make things more accessible to our community. If, just as a side note, in San Antonio, Texas, the city of San Antonio funds 16 senior centers from the city dollars. And I don't want to say shame on us, but let's just think about that. Okay, so we'll move to education. So on education, what we have are the education classes that we offer in the 2 areas of the activity centers, but we also have, through our partnership with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, we have expanded the mental health first aid initiative. And what that means is that through that training, we're able to identify signs and symptoms for communities. That would be another something offering that we would have that we've done before in Park County, but we would make that available to our community members up in Teller and Park if you were interested. But we could do mental health first aid training out there, because sometimes it's a matter of recognizing the signs and symptoms before you can even figure out what do I do next. And oftentimes the people that we don't engage with are oftentimes the ones that have most need. Next slide, please. I know my time frame, so I'm going to breeze through now. So nutrition, you are going to get these slides. I could go through the numbers, but I will just say that overall, we have a significant amount of impact into the nutrition, but I'm going to highlight one from this slide that I think it's important. We now have, now it's plus 1,600 plus. We're at 1,700 people, just shy of 1,700 people with our food pantry. And what you may not know is 300 of the grandparents that we're supporting are supporting grandkids directly. So it's not about just older adults. As much as we have that being our focus, the reality when you think about family systems, grandparents are taking care of grandkids, and now we're just seeing a volume of grandchildren coming through our pantry because we're filling bellies of kids so they can be learners. I am so and definitely committed that if we have intergenerational programming available throughout the Tri-County region, we will build a community that is going to be available to support and really benefit from the wisdom, adaptability, and resilience of older adults. But at the exclusion of those connections, some kids say, don't like old people, and I'm not saying that myself. I've heard that. And so what we have to do is build and bridge the stigma about what aging actually means. And I think that we will find that we're going to have a different way to connect. That way, for the long haul, we're going to be able to have a community that embraces, supports, and is going to be available. Because quite frankly, without those kids being available, we're going to have more and more isolation in the community. Next slide, please. As we move forward to the next slide. Health and wellness. The key piece that I want to share on this is the, I'm going to share the resource navigation. So that is the first entry point into our organization. And then not only through our organization, but to the community providers as well. And we'll go to the next slide. Going back to the social connection piece. I just want to share with you on this particular one, I think I've covered everything except maybe the thrift stores. The thrift stores, beyond the durable medical equipment, we have many, many volunteers that are part of the thrift stores. And some of the people that we have in our residents are now volunteering at the thrift stores. We do have the apartments at North Hancock when the senior center opens. So some of those individuals will be supporting, I'm confident, as they did before, volunteering over at the senior center. So the way that we have connection points is an opportunity for some of our provider community here that if you have needs for volunteers, we have the connection with some of those individuals to be able to activate that. And again, regardless of whether you're in service with us or with another organization or not in service at all, besides hope, purpose is another a key element to be able to address behavioral health issues. And I think that sometimes people who are early into retirement or so far into their retirement and they've lost the independence because of ambulation or because of cognition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's important to know that volunteerism is very much part of the solution to be able to keep a community health and well. Next slide, please. And transportation, you'll see that we have a significant amount of rides. One of the things that we are looking to do is going up north is we have learned that we are at the Grace Best Elementary School, that particular school in District 38, the school district has been wonderful, but they have to move forward with closing that building. So we will be looking for another place to be able to provide support for our program. And in doing so, what we're being mindful of this time that we didn't have that need before is to have the parking. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a hub up north to be able to have access for transportation. And what I mean by that, I don't know, but I believe it's going to be 3 to 5 vehicles. And with that, what the intent is to be able to have access, because many of the behavioral health services, including UC Aging Center, are on the Interquest and the Briargate. All of that is further north right now in the University Heights area. And so while we have some access certainly from the south, we do need to have a hub of opportunity from the north. So that's one of the things that we're moving forward with. Next slide, please. And then the experience that we have both with mental health first aid and the activity centers as part of the education. But I do want to highlight the Digital Experience Hub. If you haven't come see our hub, we have a computer lab. Originally, why we established this lab is because when people were applying for apartments, they would do the pen and paper with our resource navigation, and they would fill out their full application. They would submit it to the property. And what happened is that the property manager would accept the application with their application fee, not telling that individual that they had already made a commitment to somebody who applied online. So what happens is that senior is paying for the application fee for somebody that for one that they can't even compete with. So what we did originally is we brought the digital hub so that we can actually support people who fill online, that at least we're competing at the same level of getting the application there. What happened from that is now we've got older adults who are starting Etsy accounts with the jewelry they're making. They're selling it as little micro businesses. And I'll tell you, Match.com has got some new business from Silver Key. So we'll go forward to the next one. Speaking of isolation and loneliness, all right, volunteers. This is Volunteer Appreciation Week, 5,400,000 hours of volunteer support. And with that, that is how we 54,000 hours. Thank you, Melissa. This is the way that we're able to meet much of our match for the AAA funding that we do enjoy the support of, and the people and the partnerships and all that we do truly could not continue without that level of care. That is how we believe that with the challenges the RAC is facing and all of the PPACG systems, this is the one thing that makes, of many things, but this is one of the main things that makes Silver Key resilient. And even through this challenge, we know that we can tap into our volunteers to activate as much care as possible in the way that makes sense. Next slide, please. And the importance of volunteer. Okay, I couldn't be overstated. We want to say it twice. So just to let you know, that's how you can get involved with our system. info@silverkey.org. We invite you to look at our website sometime just before June. We'll be revamping the whole thing, different experience. That's our phone number. We have the 2 administrative campuses, and I don't put the apartment complexes on here because, quite frankly, sadly, we don't need the business. We've got that out there, and it's taken on its own kind of referral process. So that's where we're at. One more slide, and I think we're close. You're probably thinking, thank goodness, we are done. So I can answer any questions, Madam Chair.
I would actually like to make a comment on something that you said, which I think is really, really important, is listening to the people who need the services and hearing what they want to say. And I just want to comment, and maybe it's a little political, when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. started to talk about autistic individuals, and the things he said really didn't have any significant background in what families were experiencing. And boy, did he hear about that. And so I do think it's extremely important to hear what people have to say they need, and the key is listening. And I just was really impressed that you said that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Questions? Yes.
We need you.
I know, Susie.
We
We
need
do.
you.
We-
And I am here to tell you, I'm going to give you a buzz and we're going to sit down and talk about what we could replicate, right, in Park. I know you don't have more resources and more people overnight, but we do. And what could we do in partnership? And I just want to say, I think you are possibly the only person on the planet who found a good use for the C car.
Susie, you've just made my week. Trust me.
Miss working with you.
It's the C-CAR is the Colorado Client Assessment Record. And what it is under Medicaid, you have to fill out the C-CAR. A clinician has to fill out a C-CAR for them to be able to activate care. And so to Susie's point, what it is that we have all these therapists across the entire state filling out this document and the data does nothing. This is an example, Doge, not to get political. Maybe Doge should go look at the C-CAR. Sorry.
The hope scale. Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. The hope scale, like that, I thought about that. That's brilliant. Good for you.
Probably something you can use too.
Madam President,
Sure.
I just want, Madam Chair, okay, I forget what organization I'm at. I just wanted to comment, just to hear your conceptualization of services, which includes both the north and the south. You know, it's 15 miles from my home down here, which, you know, is quite a considerable distance. And we have no public transportation at all. So to hear you recognize the needs both north and south in this community is very encouraging.
There's always perspective.
And I want to thank all of our presenters because sometimes, we just get little bits of information about services, but a much more comprehensive view is really important to all the people who sit on the rack or who are online and learn about the kinds of services that we provide. So thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, if I can make 2 comments as we close out the presenter opportunities. So again, thank you presenters for taking the time to be here today to collaborate around behavioral health services. It's kind of, a strange time right now because we're celebrating volunteer appreciation stuff here at the close of April, but also thinking about May. We have the Older Americans Month proclamation. May is Behavioral Health Month. So there's just like a lot of stuff happening right now. And so I did want to just take a minute when both Pearls, UCCS, Silver Key all reflected, even there was another person in the room too, just reflecting on supporting older adults and families kind of where they're at and trying to really understand them. At the state, through our state legislature, they create issue briefs on an annual basis. And they talk about a lot of different subjects. The number one downloaded issue brief is Emergency Mental Health Holds. This was created in 2017. And even today, it is still the number one downloaded issue brief from the state of Colorado. When we're talking about wanting to support people where they're at, immediately wanting to go to a mental health hold for an individual is not really helping them. Although some people, that might be what needs to happen. There is that reality too. But I just thought that was really interesting because we've had a lot of talk about mental health in the 6 years that I've been in this organization, and it's kind of ebbed and flowed. There have definitely been times where it was a huge concern. It led to the development of Pearls. It led to the launch of the Pikes Peak Elder Justice Center. And I'm going to follow up with Sheila here in a little bit. But, for me to learn that the number one downloaded brief from the state of Colorado is mental health holds and people trying to understand what that looks like is really interesting. And then Jason wants to
Just real quick, I want to make a comment to that because outside of the hold, and what that means is somebody who's at risk to themselves or somebody else. So usually hold will be initiated for somebody who is suicidal, homicidal. The third category, gravely disabled. I want to share another piece that is very much a challenge in this community. We certainly at Silver Key, and I know other providers have the licensing to be able to initiate a hold for somebody who would be designated gravely disabled. The problem is that here's what the issue is. If we move somebody with a hold that's gravely disabled, and if we haven't done a clinical evaluation, we haven't yet fully determined that. But if we do, then of course we have to move forward with that hold. But even from the signs and symptoms that we see, particularly around hoarding issues and the level of anxiety issues, if you move somebody to a hold status because they've lost their decision-making capacity and they are at risk for themselves, here's what the path is. We initiate a hold for gravely disabled individual. They go into a psychiatric hospital for a 3-day evaluation, stabilization, presumably on medications. But nothing changes in their environment. They get released right back. And sometimes Silver Key is where they release them to. To our apartments? We're full. What are you doing? We have to make sure that gravely disabled is something that gets evaluated differently throughout the state about what it means for older adults, because cognitive loss because of dementias is an organic brain disorder, and people deserve the right, that's a right, to be able to have health care around addressing that issue. If people end up in psychiatric hospitalization because they can't make a decision about how to be able to manage all of their environment, that makes sense to me, but there's got to be a next path. Because right now, I'm almost reluctant to put somebody on a hold for gravely disabled when they need it, because they will end up on the streets in many cases. Because then that's when the rentals choose to be able to evict. It's just a tragic thing. Sorry, it's you.
Well, and I just want to, bring back kind of part of our, bringing folks in here today was to, raise awareness, shed a light, think a little bit as we go into, into May about behavioral health and the needs that people really do have in the region, and tying that to flipping the script, for Older Americans Month, what that can look like, and how what we do and the folks that we interact with during the upcoming month, we think about how we're flipping the script on behavioral health and what people are needing and how we approach them, and even how we call people out for being mentally ill or having schizophrenia, a person who has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, a person living with mental health issues, they're not I'm not even going to, use the other language. They're a person first. And then I did want to take a minute to call out our own caregiving programs here at the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, just to add that in. We do have types of behavioral health supports and services through our caregiver program. We have a lending library here of books that really help support those caregivers who are doing the work that they need to be doing with their family member. Coming up tomorrow afternoon, we have Voices of Grief doing a screening here at 3:00, I think, in the afternoon, to support folks with behavioral health needs, and just really feel great watching Voices of Grief. And then in the month of May, Rocky Mountain PBS is launching their Allies in Aging and focusing on caregiving. And so I have one handout. I might go try to sneak away and make some more copies of this if people want to take it with them. So just on Rocky Mountain PBS, lots of shows to watch during May around caregiving and mental health, and all really good resources. So wanted to close out our presentation piece with that. So, and again, thank you to our providers who were here today, online and in person. And I will turn it back over to Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. We'll move on then. And under 6B is our membership subcommittee. And I think Melissa and I are going to talk a little bit about what's going on with membership right now. We do not have a chair of that committee, and maybe you can.
So a couple things happening with membership. We do need a membership chair. We had Maria from the Independent Center, and she has stepped out. She has moved on to another job, and so we don't have a membership chair. And so if anyone on the RAC would like to be involved in that role, again, the responsibilities there are to reach out and check in with potential members along with myself, and talk about the RAC, what's going on, and then present those folks to the RAC. And then we have a list of some other responsibilities. I'm going to have Debbie read those on.
These are some suggestions from various people of things that a membership chair could initiate or participate in. Again, coordinate beginning in October the discussion on exec committee positions, which happen on a yearly basis, chair, vice chair, second chair, those kinds of things, and make those formal motions for a vote in December. So that'll come up this December for January. But some other thing is meet with prospective new members, talk about the RAC, learn about the applicant, and share with the executive committee. If we have additional RAC members who want to be on the membership committee, then that chair could get those folks involved and let the rest of the RAC know who they are. Present new members and lead the voting process for them at RAC meetings. Attend new member orientations. Melissa handles at this point all the new member orientations, and if we had people on a membership committee or the membership chair who may want to participate in those as well, I myself have offered to help Melissa and possibly participate in that training. If there are no new members in the pipeline, that person could get involved in trying to go to presentations, trying to get new members. We also have in the past done things like send out birthday cards, check in on members, or if anyone is going through hardship, a membership chairperson could participate in those and do any other outreach to raise awareness and get new members. So it's a really unlimited position. There are lots of things that could be done, and they've kind of slipped they used to be done and now they're not. So maybe if we can get another membership chair who would be interested in doing some of those things. So if you're interested, you can talk to Melissa, you can contact me, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. And then we, again, today voted on Don Kovaleski to join us, which is great. He was here last month, sitting in, participating, met a few of the RAC members. And we have, of course, received the appointment from Park County for Sheila Williams. And so she was brought on. And then today in the room, we have Susie visiting us also from Park County, and she has given me her application. So that'll be going out to the RAC. With her most likely voting in May. And I think that's all I have for membership to add on to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And C is the Strategic Review Committee. Laura, I don't know if you have anything new to mention.
No, Madam Chair, we have not met since the last time.
Great, thank you. And the Technical Reviews Subcommittee, which is letter D on there, and Gordon is traveling, so he's not here today. I don't know, Jody, if you have anything else for me to add?
No, Madam Chair. The recent carryover funds were distributed per the last presentation I made, and so since we are at the mid-year of our two-year contract period, funding into the second year will be by an option letter. Does not require new contract, and I'll touch a little bit more about the next year a portion of the contract and things like that as I move into my report.
And how you might want the Technical Review Subcommittee to participate. Okay, great. So then we'll move on to E, which is the director's report, Jody's
Sure.
report.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just carry over from there. So like I mentioned, because we moved several years ago to a 2-year contract period, and we're at the midpoint, starting July 1, though, or right before July 1, our providers will receive an option letter showing their funding and any updates to contracts and that kind of thing. So little bit different process. But once we get started into the fall, then we will open an RFP. That's a request for proposal for programs into the next 2-year period. Our goal this year is to start that a little bit earlier than we've been able to in the past, so that we're not working through the RFP process during the holidays. It's a little challenging because there are a few steps that are outside of our control, but the areas that we can control, the steps that we can control, our goal is to begin working on that just a little bit sooner. And so, as we've done in the past, the TRS committee will be provided those responses from the RFPs, and we'll be engaging with staff with our funding recommendations, and then the TRS sits in with us as we determine final allocations. So more to come on that as we get closer into the fall and the process. I did want to go ahead and touch on the last 3 or 4 weeks, at least since we were here last in March, has been a whirlwind of activity. And yesterday we had our quarterly provider meeting. That's a quarterly meeting that we meet with our providers. It's an opportunity for training, updates, funding discussions, funding, just an overall opportunity to visit with our providers. We did something a little bit different yesterday. It didn't work out completely the way we'd hoped because of a prior meeting that went a little long in here yesterday. But our goal is to create an atmosphere where our providers can network amongst themselves even before the meeting begins. And so we had to do that a little bit differently than we had planned. Our providers were up for the challenge, and we appreciate them that were here that got to participate in that. But excuse me. That went well. And some of the updates that I gave them yesterday, I will touch on as well today. So the other thing that we're currently in the midst of is our annual program and fiscal assessments. In prior years, based on some guidance from the state, we could highlight specific programs that the state wanted to have additional information on. So, for example, almost every year, Silver Key was an in-person assessment simply because of the volume and the type of services that they were provided. Typically, in the past, the State Unit on Aging has requested us to address and do in-person visits with transportation providers, nutrition providers, and right there you can hear why we were at Silver Key in person every year. But the rules have changed on that. Now every single contracted provider must have an in-person annual program assessment. And so we're going through that process right now. Melody Hannah, our Associate Director and Contracts Administrator, along with a fairly new staff member, Jen Song, who you got to meet recently, who is working with her on these assessments. They're visiting with every single provider to meet these new requirements under the state. And so that is currently in process. About 3 weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C. as part of the U.S. Aging board meeting, which I serve on, as well as their aging policy briefing. And that's an opportunity where we get to hear from those who work in policy and legislative arenas, typically working directly with policymakers and their staff members. And as you might imagine, it has been a fairly stressful 3 or 4 weeks because just before that meeting, a memo went out from RFK Jr., Secretary of the Health and Human Services, around changes related to Health and Human Services. The policy briefing, though, was good. It was informational. We had an opportunity to meet with the then recently appointed Undersecretary for the Administration for Community Living, ACL, which was formed during President Obama's administration to really pull together the services and funding administration related to the Older Americans Act. She was there to present with us during that week. Myself and two other AAA directors from the state were able to visit with 5 legislative staff members. All of them represent Region 4, which is our 3 counties, as well as a drop-in visit for one that we had not been able to make an appointment with. So we had good conversations, but as you might imagine and may recall, about halfway through that week, the Administration on Community Living staff at both the DC and the San Francisco offices showed up to work, and many of them were removed from their positions. And so it's been very challenging and very disheartening to hear of these changes. And ironically, on that Monday, that was on Wednesday, and on Monday we had just heard from the new undersecretary, and she had introduced many of her chief staff, several of those who are still in their roles as they work into the new assignments within Health and Human Services. So there's still a lot yet being figured out, and as we hear more, and right now I would say the information that we're receiving sometimes is not as definitive as we would like. And so I will be sharing information as I have it, but my hope is to share, despite the uncertainty, just to continue to share that we're here, we're going to continue doing the work that we do so well across the 3 counties, and just try to figure this all out together. So that was part of the messaging yesterday as well. Another area I'd like to address, and we talked about this during our quarterly provider meeting, was the recently leaked presidential budget recommendations. I do want to clarify that nothing is determined yet. That is a leaked budget. It's not official. However, the contents of it are disheartening because it does break apart the programs that were previously under the Administration for Community Living across CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, as well as some of those services going into Administration for Children and Family. The other recommendations are budget cuts to many programs that affect our most frail and most needy older adults. Those include ombudsman services, SHIP, counseling services, APS, services for our rural regions, and it's very challenging to know that is the intent while this is a leaked document and there's nothing official out there yet. So we have to be careful in one way, and yet also try to be proactive in how we receive this messaging and how we approach ultimately our planning process. Right now, our messaging at the national level, as you might imagine, is around the budget cuts and the reorganization of the programs that were previously under ACL. Reauthorization of the Older Americans Act is way low on the burner right now. Of course, that was what I was bringing to you last fall and right up to the end of the previous Congress. Right now, that messaging is around the funding cuts. And if you have opportunity to visit with the legislator, make a phone call, write a letter, I can give you some tools to that effect, and I'm very happy to share that out. One thing that I would recommend is that you, as part of your conversation, connect the dots. What does the change to the Older Americans Act funding and administration for community living look like for your clients? Connect those dots. It could be stories, it could be data, it could be funding and finance, but that's where we really need to focus our language right now. Another area, and you've heard me talk about this also, is around the planned funding moving into the new state fiscal year. We were very fortunate that the state funding cuts were not as drastic as originally expected. They were able to, from the type of funding that we normally access, that's the state fund for senior services, they were able to draw funds. Most of the funds that they had to pull were from non-direct services. It's disappointing that some of the action that felt so positive last year, they ended up pulling some of those funds back. There was the $2 million additional funds that was passed last year. That will be drawn down. Some of the emergency funds that were set, some of those funds were drawn away. So we're actually looking through. This week I received our anticipated, and that's what it is, anticipated, because nothing is final yet, our anticipated state budget. There are some changes, but not nearly as drastic as what we expected. However, with that in mind, the federal budget is still the big unknown. As you know, we're under a continuing resolution right now through September 30th, which is the end of the federal fiscal year. And the most that the state can receive funding for as a backup is 75% of the average of the last 3 years federal funding. And so they've taken that average, and they've taken 75% of that, and that's what they will be contracting with us. And so in turn, we've asked our providers to adjust their budgets to that, to meet that 75% change. This is important. A couple of things are really important to think about this. We're asking them to make this change because the ultimate intention of the state is to hold to those contracts. That's the maximum that they would be able to provide funding to. However, the hope is, even if we go into yet another continuing resolution simply approves flat funding. We can live with flat funding. And what the state will do then this fall, once the final budget numbers are considered at the federal level and approved, is that they will, what they're calling right size our contracts, and in turn, we will right size our providers' contracts with those new numbers. We have no idea what that will look like, but that is our goal, is to bring to update those contracts accordingly. There's a very, very good chance that it will actually happen at the same time that we'll get our carryover distribution. So for those of you who are familiar with the carryover process, federal funding does have a carry forward or carryover process, in which case we can look back to unspent carryover funding, and they, if approved at the federal level, then approved at the state level, can add that back into our contract, and we'd redistribute that typically after the first of the year based on spend down of our providers' need, and depending on where those funds fall within the federal funding parks. And so it's the carryover is a nicety. It's never guaranteed, but it is nice that that is something that we can look forward to. Sometimes I've asked providers not to budget for that because there's never any guarantee, even if we don't spend it. Typically that spin down challenge is simply because the federal fiscal year is an October 1 start date. State fiscal year, which is where all of our funding is managed and administered through the state of Colorado, is a July 1 start date. And so that offset coordination is simply how we end up with a little bit of carryover. So our goal ultimately, though, is to reduce the amount of carryover, because at the state level, they do have the authority to cap the amount of carryover that comes back to us. So we want to make sure that we're spending as tightly and as swiftly and as efficiently as possible within our state fiscal year. So a lot going on at the budget level. But like I said, we've worked with, we're working with our providers. Our staff made adjustments. This is normally the time of year where we would ask our providers to go in and adjust their budgets to let them account for changes in payroll, changes in product delivery, purchases, gas, if you're a transportation provider, just the cost of goods. And so this is normally the time we would do that. With the state planning to only be able to access that 75% spending authority, we've made the same adjustment here. And like I said, we will right size and make adjustments in the fall when we have those new numbers. Last couple things. Jason, thank you for sharing the senior summit coming up. We are going to be participating in several senior expos as well as the senior games this year. That's the weekend of June 6th, 7th, and 8th. So there's a couple of posters around the office. If you'd like to get more details, I think there's one just outside the door in this hallway. But if you would like to volunteer at any of the expos or the senior games, please connect with Melissa as she's managing that. We'd love to have you at senior expos because it's so important for people to see that it's not just Melissa and I or one of my, our staff at those. We'd love to see the engagement that you have with folks, families and seniors coming through. And we touched a little bit on collaboration. I love the fact that we're able to have our providers come and make these presentations. It's important for the RAC members to see and hear, what they approved, practically over a year ago now, but let them see and hear the wonderful services that you do, because of course if they haven't heard a presentation from you before, it's usually all they know is what you put in your RFP, and we want that experience to be so much more. And I think this is a wonderful expression of that collaboration that we look for. AAAs are not meant to nor designed to own all aging programs. We are here to coordinate services, and that coordination comes through the collaborative efforts that we have across the 3 counties that we work within, and with the providers within our 3 counties. And so we're very excited, and just thank you again. I know you've been thanked, but I just wanted to give my gratitude and thanks as well. The last little piece is right here on the table next to the coffee, but also in our front area is we have our current yellow books. If you would like to take some with you, you need more than just a couple here from the table. There are boxes out there. There's only 16 to a box. We have them packaged by weight, so they're not terribly heavy. So there's 16 to a box. You're welcome to as many boxes as you can carry or as you will let us put in your trunk. So just let us know. We have more. They're both English and Spanish. I do want to highlight that all of our printed materials are now being translated to Spanish as well. But we also have our mobility guides. Jodelle over at Silver Key, she's intent on making sure that she's got all of her materials that she can put out for the Silver Key clientele. We love that. But we just received a new shipment of mobility guides. That's mobility guides across all 3 counties. Counties. That's a fantastic resource to take with you. Folks from Park County, Bill and Susie, I would love to load you up with any of these that you might want to take with you. We have plenty. The mobility guide is also translated into Spanish. And so want to highlight that as well. They don't do us any good here in the closet. We want to make sure that those are out to the community. So I can't remember if I'd shared, we had the opportunity for a few months here that we are contracting with an organization that puts the yellow books out to all the Safeways across El Paso and Teller County. So be watching for that. If you see it there, I'd love to see a picture. I'll just take a picture. It's usually at their, where you see the renter's guides and that kind of thing. So it's just really exciting. But if you or an organization, would like some of these, we're also either ourselves can make deliveries or we work with a small courier company here in town that we could bring you more. But Teller and Park counties, I'm happy. I'm always happy for a road trip and happy to bring them to you all. So happy to do that. With that, Madam Chair, I am going to turn it back to you, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Jody. And I just have a short report. I just want to note that our June meeting I think is all set up now for Teller County. And we're hoping to have our July meeting in Park County, but I don't think that's been finalized yet.
Penny did confirm that Penny Everest up at Park County Senior Coalition has reserved the space up at the county offices in Park County for July.
So we will be traveling for those 2 months. I also would like to say that I'm just so glad we have some new members to our RAC, and especially because I think that it's really important that we begin to advocate for our services, as Jody pointed out. And I don't know if other people are willing to participate in things that Jody may announce to us that he may want us to participate in. And I think another thing that Melissa has been talking about is having more meetings with the Council on Aging, if I remember correctly from our exec meeting. And again, seeing how we can advocate more for services, because I think that's going to become more and more important with what's going on in terms of hopefully being able to continue a lot of our services. And that's all I have. I want to thank everybody for coming today and those people online. And we'll see you next month. And that is scheduled for under meeting schedule. That is scheduled for May the 22nd at 10. As you know, our executive meetings are the first Wednesday of each month at 11, and that's an online thing. So if somebody is interested in becoming our membership chair, they would join that online meeting where we kind of discuss what's happening in these meetings or anything else we need to add. And then the PPACG has their meeting. I think it's the second Tuesday.
Second Wednesday, it's May 14th.
Second Wednesday of the month, and that's the 14th. And that you can attend that meeting, but you can also participate. Well, you can see it online, which is really good occasionally to participate in. And I didn't participate in the provider meeting, but those are good to do online as well, to hear what's going on and seeing the kind of feedback that our providers are providing the staff here at the area agency. So thank you. And with that, I'll call for an adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us come in and